There's a conversation in the Bible that most people have never read. It happens in heaven, between God and Satan, and it's about you. Well, not you specifically. It's about a man named Job. But here's what makes this story terrifying. God gave Satan permission to destroy him, not because Job sinned, not because he failed, but because he was too righteous. Think about that. The better you are, the more you become a target. And before Job even woke up that morning, his fate had already been sealed in a courtroom he couldn't see. By the end of the day, he would lose everything: his wealth, his children, his health, and he would never know why. At least, not for a long time. This is the story the church doesn't want to tell you, because it reveals something uncomfortable about how God operates, something about invisible wars, something about suffering that has nothing to do with punishment. This is the true story of Job, finally explained. Before we begin, I need you to do something. Comment "tested" right now, because if you're watching this video, you're probably going through something, or you've been through something you didn't understand, and this story is going to change the way you see it. Comment "tested." Let's go. Welcome to Shadow Scribe, where we don't just retell Bible stories, we reveal the hidden depths the modern church overlooks, the mysteries, the spiritual warfare, the uncomfortable truths. If you want surface-level religion, this isn't the channel for you. But if you want to understand the real battle behind faith, suffering, and God's justice, you're in the right place. Now, let's enter the story.
The land of Uz. There was a man in the land of Uz. His name was Job, and the Bible introduces him with words it rarely uses for anyone. Blameless, upright, feared God, turned away from evil. 4 descriptions, each one absolute. Job wasn't just good, he was flawless in character. But here's what makes him even more remarkable. He was also incredibly wealthy. 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, countless servants. In today's terms, a billionaire. But Job's wealth wasn't the most important thing about him. It was his family. 7 sons, 3 daughters, and they were close. They held feasts together, celebrated life together. And Job, he prayed for them constantly. Every morning he would rise before dawn, offer sacrifices for each child, just in case they had sinned in their hearts. Even their thoughts mattered to him. Job was meticulous, faithful, devoted. He seemed to have everything a man could want: prosperity, family, peace, purpose. But what he didn't know was that his name had just been spoken in heaven, and not in the way you'd think. One day, the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. This wasn't a casual meeting. This was a divine council, a courtroom in the heavenly realm. Angels, spiritual beings, authorities, all standing before the throne. And among them was Satan, not hiding, not sneaking in. He was allowed to be there, because in the spiritual hierarchy, he still had access. God looked at him and asked, "Where have you come from?" Satan's answer was chilling: "From roaming through the earth, walking back and forth on it." He wasn't resting. He was patrolling, searching, watching, looking for someone to destroy. And then God said something that changed everything. "Have you considered my servant Job?" God didn't just mention Job. He pointed him out.
He said, "There is no one on earth like him, blameless, upright, fears me, shuns evil." God was bragging about Job, lifting him up as the ultimate example of faithfulness. But Satan wasn't impressed. He responded with a question that has echoed through history. Does Job fear God for nothing? In other words, of course he loves you. You've given him everything. You've blessed his work, protected his family, made him rich. But take it all away and watch what happens. He'll curse you to your face. It was a challenge, a wager, a test of whether faith could survive when blessings disappear. And God, confident in Job's integrity, said, "Everything he has is in your hands, but do not touch him." Satan left, and the nightmare began. Job was at home, perhaps reflecting, praying, resting. It was an ordinary day, until a servant burst through the door, his face pale, eyes wide, breathing heavy. "Master, the oxen were plowing, the donkeys were grazing nearby. Then the Sabeans attacked. They took everything, killed all the servants. I'm the only one who escaped." Before Job could even process it, a second messenger arrived. Fire fell from the sky. It burned the sheep, all of them, and the shepherds. Only I survived. Job's heart was pounding now. Then a third man ran in, covered in dust and blood. The Chaldeans came in 3 raiding parties. They took the camels, slaughtered the servants with swords. I barely escaped. 3 disasters, 3 reports. In minutes, Job had lost nearly everything he owned. But he was still standing, still breathing, still holding on. Then the 4th messenger entered, and this one broke him. "Your sons and daughters were feasting at the eldest brother's house. A great wind came from the desert. It struck all 4 corners of the house. The house collapsed. They're all dead. I'm the only one left to tell you." Silence. Job stood there, frozen, his mind trying to catch up with his heart. 10 children, gone in an instant. And then Job did something no one expected. He tore his robe, shaved his head, fell to the ground, and worshipped. He said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb. Naked I will return. The Lord gave, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Even in the deepest pit of grief, Job did not sin. He did not curse God. He did not blame. He worshipped. But Satan wasn't done. The sons of God presented themselves before the Lord again, and once more Satan was among them. God asked, "Where have you come from?" Same question, same answer. From roaming the earth. Then God said, "Have you considered my servant Job? He still holds fast to his integrity, even after you incited me to ruin him without reason." God acknowledged it. Without reason. Job's suffering wasn't punishment, it was a test. But Satan wasn't satisfied. He replied, "Skin for skin. A man will give everything he has for his life. Touch his flesh, his bones, and he will curse you." God responded, "He is in your hands, but spare his life." And Satan went out. This time, he struck Job's body. Painful sores erupted across Job's skin, from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Boils, infected wounds, unbearable itching. Job sat in the ashes outside the city, scraping his skin with broken pottery just to find relief. He was unrecognizable. A man who once wore fine robes now sat in filth. A man who commanded servants now had no one except his wife. and she looked at him with a mix of pity and anger. "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die." She didn't say it out of hate. She said it out of exhaustion. She had lost her children, too. She was watching her husband waste away, and she couldn't take it anymore. But Job answered, "You speak like a foolish woman. Should we accept good from God and not trouble?" Even then, Job did not sin with his lips, but inside he was breaking. News of Job's suffering spread. 3 of his closest friends heard about it: Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, Zophar the Naamite. Wise men, respected men. They traveled from different lands to comfort him. But when they arrived and saw Job, they didn't recognize him. The sight was so horrific, they tore their robes, threw dust on their heads, and sat down beside him in silence for 7 days and 7 nights. No one spoke, because sometimes there are no words. But when the silence finally broke, it wasn't with comfort, it was with judgment. Eliphaz speaks. Eliphaz went first. "Job, think about it. Who that was innocent ever perished? Those who plow evil and sow trouble reap it. God is disciplining you. Accept it. Repent." He was saying, "You must have done something." Job responded, "If only my anguish could be weighed and my calamity placed on the scales, it would overweigh the sand of the seas." He wasn't defending himself yet. He was just hurting. Bildad was harsher. "Does God pervert justice? Your children died because they sinned. If you were pure, he would restore you." He was saying, "Your kids deserved it." Job's pain deepened. Zophar was the cruelest. "God is actually being merciful. You deserve worse. Your guilt is hidden, but God sees it." He was saying, "You're getting off easy." Job had come looking for comfort. Instead, he got accusations.
Job finally exploded. "You are miserable comforters, all of you. If you were in my place, I could speak like you do, but I would strengthen you, I would comfort you." He turned his attention to God. "Even if he kills me, I will hope in him, but I will defend my ways to his face." Job wanted answers. He wanted a courtroom, a place to present his case. "Let me speak and let God answer. Show me my offense, my sin." But God remained silent, and the silence was unbearable. The mediator. In his desperation, Job said something profound. "If only there were someone to mediate between us, someone to lay a hand on both of us." He was crying out for a mediator, someone who could bridge the gap between man and God. He didn't know it, but he was prophesying about Jesus. Elihu arrives. While the 3 friends argued, a younger man had been listening. Elihu, son of Barachal. He had stayed silent out of respect, but now he was angry. Angry at Job for justifying himself instead of God. Angry at the 3 friends for condemning Job without answers. Elihu spoke with fire. Age should speak, but it's the spirit in a person that gives understanding. "Job, you say you're innocent, but God is greater than man. He doesn't owe you an explanation. Suffering isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's refinement." Elihu was closer to the truth than the others, but he still didn't have the full picture, because the answer wasn't coming from man. It was coming from God himself. Then, out of the storm, God spoke. Not gently,
not with explanation, but with power. Who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you will answer me. And then God unleashed a series of questions that shattered Job's understanding. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Who marked off its dimensions? Have you ever given orders to the morning? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Do you hunt prey for the lioness? Does the eagle soar at your command? God wasn't answering Job's questions. He was revealing his magnitude. Then God described two creatures, Behemoth, a land beast so powerful no man can tame it, Leviathan, a sea monster so terrifying no one dares approach. God was saying, you can't even control these. How do you expect to understand me? Job was silent, humbled, broken, but not defeated. Job's response. Job finally answered, I know that you can do all things. Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. This was the breakthrough. Job didn't get answers, he got God, and that was enough.
God turned to Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. I am angry with you. You have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. Even in his pain, Job had been honest. The friends had been religious, but religion without truth is just noise. God told them to offer sacrifices and have Job pray for them. And Job, the man they accused, interceded for them. Double blessing. After Job prayed for his friends, God restored his fortunes. Twice over. 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, 1,000 donkeys. And God gave him 10 more children, 7 sons, 3 daughters. The daughters were so beautiful they were named Jemimah, Keziah, Karen Happuch. And Job gave them an inheritance alongside their brothers, unheard of in that culture. Job lived 140 more years. He saw his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren, 4 generations, and then he died, old and full of years. So what's the real story of Job? It's not about suffering as punishment. It's about faith when God is silent. Job never knew about the conversation in heaven. He never knew why it happened, but he trusted anyway. And that's the terrifying truth about faith. You won't always get answers, but you'll always have a choice, to trust or to curse. Job chose trust, even in the ashes, even in the pain, even when God seemed absent. And in the end, he didn't just get his life back, he got more than he lost, because the God who allows the fire is the same God who walks through it with you. If this story spoke to you, comment faithful. Subscribe to Shadow Scribe for more hidden biblical truths. And remember, your suffering isn't the end, it's the forge.